Welcome back to the Sexism Challenge. This segment, we're going to dig into socialization, gender role norms, and toxic masculinity. And remember, it's not too late to catch up with us. Click on the links to check out the earlier segments. Okay, socialization. Socialization is the process through which we learn how to be and what's acceptable in society. We get socialized in lots of different ways, but gender's a big one. Gender role norms are the rules, expectation, the laws of how to be in terms of gender. And these rules often are different based on race, ethnicity, and class. This cycle of socialization that we're born into is what helps sexism stay in place, unless we disrupt it. We get socialized by our family, the media, and institutions, and none of us asked to be born into these oppressive systems. So we didn't get the opportunity to be like, I'm gonna opt out of sexism. Or, do you want some sexism? Nah, I'm good. So we're participating in them unless we disrupt them intentionally. For example, with gender role norms and socialization, it's easy or frustrating to understand how the disparity with women in math and science happens. Women make up half of the college-educated workforce, but only 29% of scientists and engineers. This disparity is most stark when we get to college, and the gap is wider for women of color and women from lower SES backgrounds. The reality is that men and women are intellectual equals. There's no gender difference in terms of intellect. Intellect is not determined by your gender identity. Yet gender role norms say girls should focus on liberal arts careers and helping professions, and boys should focus on building things and being engineers. And our cultures, our media, and our institutions reinforce that. So teachers calling on Johnny in math and science class, or someone telling Sarah that she would be a much better nurse than doctor. And then they listen and pick the right career, and people see that as proof that the gender role norms were correct. More men are then funneled into high-paying, high-status jobs, and girls are told they're just right for the low-status and low-paying jobs. You with me? How we endorse and perpetuate gender role norms helps to perpetuate sexism. In the workplace, researchers are focusing on the masculine-feminine continuum and understanding how that impacts leadership style, how we perceive leadership, and gender identity. Surprise, surprise, feminine qualities aren't seen as good for leadership, and women who have a feminine style are disliked. But women who have a masculine style too much of the time are also disliked. So you can't win. So what's a woman to do? I certainly don't have the answer, but I do know that if we are more aware of how we have double standards in terms of gender and feminine and masculine leadership styles, we can check ourselves. And when we're in positions of power, we can choose not to allow that to dictate our behavior. With all that in mind, your assignment for this segment is to identify at least one gender role norm you're willing to disrupt. And I'll help you out. I'll give you two more definitions. They're internalized sexism and toxic masculinity. Those can happen when we have mega doses of gender role norms. Internalized sexism is when women start to believe the lies that they're told about who they are and what they're supposed to be. And it can squash their motivation and their reach towards their goals. It could mean as a woman you think, I shouldn't even pursue that career in science because women just aren't good at that. Or as a Black woman, if I internalize the mammy stereotype that I believe my role is to solely take care of others. Toxic masculinity is when the gender role norms around masculinity are held so rigidly that they become a danger to self and society. Things like violence, lack of emotionality, and aggression. No need to recreate the wheel. I'll let you check out Francesca Fiorentini's breakdown of toxic masculinity from an intersectionality lens. She nails it.
This video about toxic masculinity.
The content of these lies, of course, can vary on the basis of race, class, and ethnicity. So remember, your challenge is to identify at least one gender role norm that you are ready to disrupt and share it. Share it in the comments, share it with friends. That helps keep us accountable. If you're at a loss, check out the resources below to keep the juices flowing. Think back on the IAT that you took in the first segment. What is it encouraging you to break out of in terms of your gender bias? Where have you been socialized? What messages have been told to you about your gender and other people's gender from your family, church, school, media, other institutions in your life? really reflect on where you picked up some of this socialization. You could also take the customity that's specific to women in leadership, or check out the videos that talk about toxic masculinity and the way in which gender shapes our relationships with ourselves and perpetuates sexism. So remember, this Women's History Month, our contribution is to disrupt sexism. So share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Sexism Challenge. How did I do that before? Like, do you want some sexism? You want some sexism? I'll pass on the sexism.
Could you say that whole thing to like you want
No.
It's just a separate cut because
None of us asked to be born into oppressive systems. Blah, that's hard to say. Say oppressive systems 5 times fast.
versus